Hello everyone, I'm Puriko. Welcome to my channel, Acquaintance is Fate. If you like my channel, please make sure you help subscribe and like. This is Puriko continue to update the power. What is it like for a woman to have sex with a man much older than her? In order to find the answer to this video, I have interviewed 6 experienced women. Let's see what they have to say. The first interviewee, Sakura, who is 27 years old, said, "Do you know the bed partner I had? It was a married man who was a good 30 years older than me, and to be honest, he taught me a lot of life lessons. He had a lot of financial resources, and he had a very attractive and mature demeanor that I was attracted to. When it comes to his attraction, apart from his financial strength, there is also the skill and proficiency he displays in his private moments, the depth and breadth of which simply leaves me wanting more. He knows how to lead the emotions and how to adjust the pace at the right time, and he appreciates and takes care of me better than men of his age, and that's what makes him so attractive. But life is not only sweet and passionate, the reality is always unpredictable. Eventually we chose to break up." You may ask, why? The reason is actually very complicated, although very charming, but I always feel that there is an insurmountable gap between us. His lifestyle, his way of thinking, and even his understanding of relationships all have a big gap with me. Moreover, he is a married man. I can't accept that I am always in the position of the third party, and this kind of relationship fills my heart with guilt and pressure. So, although we experienced many sweet moments together, we eventually chose to separate. The second respondent, Yuko, who is 31 years old, said that there was a time when I was involved in a relationship with a married man who is a full 32 years older than me. How did I end up with him, you may ask? The reason was simple. I was young and curious, but also a little greedy at the same time. At that time I had a strong desire to explore the unknown, and he happened to be that unknown. I was curious about everything about him. He was the kind of man who seemed successful and mysterious. I couldn't help but want to get close to him and look down on him. Of course, I have to admit that material attraction played a part. He was the kind of guy who could offer me a comfortable life. When I'm with him, I don't have to worry about what life is all about and can live the life I aspire to. In bed, he did take good care of me. He was gentle and skillful and made me feel pampered in that moment. But the problem was that he was always busy and I had very few chances to meet him, and every time I did, I was in a hurry and didn't have time to enjoy myself. In the end, the relationship wasn't as good as I thought it would be, although it satisfied me materially, and although she was gentle in bed, the feeling of always waiting, the feeling that he could never be mine, made me sad. Overall, it was an experience I will remember, but not look back on. The third respondent, Rio, who is 33 years old, was honest about the fact that there was a time when I had close contact with a married man who was much older than me. During that time, I deeply felt that I was more of an accessory and a tool for him than someone he really wanted to love. This man, he has a certain status in society, rich, he will buy me anything I want, for me to create a comfortable living environment. As long as I am willing to cater to him, he is even willing to solve all the trivialities of life for me. But that doesn't hide my true position in his heart. To him, I am more like a spice in his life, a tool that allows him to release stress and find happiness. In bed, I needed to cater to her needs, needed to fulfill her desires. Although she was superior to my previous boyfriend in terms of skill, she would not consider my feelings. He only cared about himself. I remember one time, he insisted on being with me, despite the fact that I was tired. He was enjoying himself while I was in pain. At that moment, I felt like a tamed animal that he had tamed. I was serving him while I myself was not getting the respect I deserved. Although that relationship gave me material satisfaction, I lost myself. The fourth interviewee, Qian Qian, is 35 years old. She said, "I gave up gifts and money, but the relationship made me feel aggrieved. I had to take care of all aspects of his problems, and what I got in return could not make up for my time and youth, so I left him in the end." The fifth respondent, Mariko, is 30 years old. She said, "At that time, I chose to date a man much older than me, but it was more out of a sense of rebellion and the pursuit of new things. I wanted to get out of my old life, I wanted to try a new way of life, and I wanted to see if older men really know how to love women better than their peers. In bed, he did bring me a lot of new experiences. He knew how to control the rhythm, he knew when to be gentle and when to be wild. His accidents and experiences mesmerized me, and that sense of freshness and excitement made me fall deep within that period of time. Gradually, however, I began to realize that our relationship was actually more of a use and transaction. It used material things to satisfy me and catered to it with my own body. Without the foundation of love, our relationship was like a castle built on the beach, which would easily collapse once the waves came. I started to get tired of this life. I started to miss the simplicity and joy of being with someone my own age. I no longer wanted to be a part of his life. I started to want to return to married life with someone my own age. So I made a decision. I ended my relationship with him and I started looking for someone my age. I wanted to find someone who would really understand me, love me, and share my life with me. I eventually returned to married life with someone my own age." The sixth respondent, Erica, 29, said, "I had a special relationship with a married man who was almost 20 years older than me. He was a successful businessman, very well off, and brought me beautiful gifts and luxuries every time we met. But during that time, in spite of my privileged life, I felt very unhappy inside. I lost more than myself in that relationship. Every time I accepted his gifts, every time I went to and from a fancy restaurant, I felt an invisible pressure. I knew that all of this was not impermanent, that I was exchanging my body for his, and I began to doubt myself and even began to question the value of life. I felt that my self-respect and dignity were trampled under my feet, and I lived every day in fear. So I want to tell all the girls, don't think it's a good idea to trade your body for material things. I've been there before, and I know how heavy the price of that road is. You may lose yourself, your self-respect, and even your love for life. So remember, no matter how hard life gets, we need to keep our dignity and not easily lower ourselves to that point." Finally, Junko feels that having a relationship with a much older man is like tasting a glass of old adult wine. He carries the aroma of age and the sediment of history, sweet and thick, but at the same time bitter. The good thing is that they have already jumped into the world's prosperity, experienced the sweet and sour of life, and have more depth and thickness in dealing with relationships. They know how to appreciate women and how to make you feel pampered appropriately. You will find security and dependence on them, and they are like a warm night light to illuminate the way forward for you. They face the ups and downs of life with worldly wisdom and equanimity, making you feel as if the world is in their grasp. However, the downside is also obvious. You are flowing at different paces in the river of time and what they have experienced and lived through when